Sun stood silently in the open space of the late afternoon, feeling a cool breeze gently sweep by, as if lifting a fraction of the 1,000-pound burden he had been carrying for so long. The amount of 200 million VND was by no means a small sum, but to him, it was entirely worth it to exchange for his family and Appo's absolute peace of mind. Stepping in to settle and completely resolve the entire debt, along with the troubles revolving around the promiscuous lover named Tieu, had finally ended the chain of horrific days his younger sister had been forced to endure. From now on, that unfaithful and greedy man would no longer have any reason or opportunity to loiter, harass, or harm his sister and Appo's life ever again. Thinking of his family being safe from this moment on, Sun breathed a sigh of relief. A sense of true tranquility returned to his mind after a long streak of stressful days spent tracking and dealing with petty, malicious tricks. Once his mind had temporarily stabilized, Sun decided to go to Hai's new office to see Tiểu San, his ex-wife, whom he always held in high esteem deep within his heart. Stepping into this fresh, modern, and positively vibrant workspace, Sun couldn't and Appo's help but feel genuinely happy for her. Seeing Tiểu San busy with the very first steps of rebuilding her career and settling into her new life here, Sun felt a strangely profound lightness in his chest. He understood that the decision to let go in the past, though painful, was the best way out for both of them. Seeing her happy and independent in the present was the clearest answer of all. They sat down together in a quiet corner of the office, beginning their conversation in the most natural and comfortable way possible. The dialogue between the two quickly shifted to the topic of their shared child. Together, they discussed and planned to pick up little Ivy for the upcoming weekends so that she would have the chance to be close to and spend time with her paternal grandmother. Though the duration of their conversation was not too long, it was enough for both to recognize a monumental shift in their relationship. Between Sun and Tiểu San at this moment, there was no longer any resentment, anger, or the lingering wounds of their broken marriage from years ago. Instead, all that remained between the two people who once walked the same path was civilized behavior, absolute mutual respect, and the most sincere blessings for each other and Appo's separate future paths. This serenity was testament to the fact that they had truly matured, learning how to let go of the gloom of the past to look toward better things. However, the river of life inherently contains unexpected and dramatic twists that no one can ever foresee. At the exact moment when a painful door of the past was peacefully closed for one person, it was also the time when another dark, secretive door of the person right next to them was accidentally pried open in a completely random manner. The invisible bond between the people in this room seemed poised to enter a new phase, where hidden truths from many years ago began to stir and resurface. Right in another corner of the office, Hai was sitting comfortably in his personal chair, holding his mother's mobile phone to help her check a few technical specifications and clear background apps to make the device run more smoothly. He did this completely selflessly, purely out of the filial duty of a tech-savvy son. However, while scrolling through the storage folders to optimize memory, Hai and Appo's finger accidentally tapped on a folder set to deep hidden mode within her personal document system. Natural curiosity prompted him to open it, and instantly, Hai was completely stunned by an old photograph, its edges steeped in the colors of time and faded into the characteristic yellowish hue of decades past. The picture captured a moment from his mother and Appo's youth, a young woman with a radiant smile, brimming with happiness and youthful vitality. Most notably, she was standing next to a very elegant-looking man wearing a pristine white shirt, exuding the demeanor of a refined intellectual. The appearance of this man and his mother and Appo's hidden photo was the detonator for a subsequent chain of violent psychological upheavals within Hai and Appo's heart. The moment he clearly saw every feature on the face of the man in the white shirt, Hai suddenly felt his chest tighten, his heart pounding in rapid, erratic thumps. A sensation, strangely familiar yet vague and intensely powerful, shot down his spine, freezing his entire body for a moment. Hai and Appo's mind began to spin with a succession of racing thoughts. He asked himself why this man looked so incredibly familiar. It felt as though he had met or seen this face somewhere before in his life, yet he could not recall it precisely. The shock and suspicion escalated to the point where Hai could no longer contain himself. He decided to bring the phone to his mother to question her about the identity of the mysterious man in the photo. The mother and Appo's immediate reaction only heightened the gravity of the situation. The moment her eyes hit the phone screen, her entire body startled violently. A flash of utter panic and fear surfaced in her eyes before she swiftly snatched the phone from her son and Appo's hand, acting in a frantic rush, as if trying to conceal a sin or some earth-shattering secret. She desperately tried to avoid Hai and Appo's probing gaze, her trembling voice losing its usual natural cadence as she stammered that he was merely an old friend from the ancient past, nothing special, before urging him to go to the front to eat breakfast before the food turned cold. The blatant concealment combined with his mother and Appo's abnormal behavior, far from soothing the curiosity in Hai's heart, acted like pouring oil on a fire, pushing his curiosity and thirst for the truth to the absolute limit of his endurance. He realized there was an invisible yet massive void in his family history, a secret his mother had spent her entire life burying and protecting from his reach. Waiting until the night had completely fallen, when the surroundings sank into absolute silence, and taking advantage of the moment his mother had fallen into a deep sleep after a tiring day, Hai quietly went into action. He stealthily approached her phone once more, reopened the hidden folder containing that old photograph, and used his personal device to take the clearest snapshot possible. Throughout that process, Hai and Appo's mind experienced surging undercurrents that were violent yet entirely rational. He harbored no blind hatred, nor did he blame the mother who had kept this hidden, or the man who had vanished from his life. Now, Hai stood in the position of a son who had truly grown up, a man mature enough to face any truth. The only thing burning in his heart right now was a scorching curiosity, a natural and legitimate human need to know his own roots. He wondered who his biological father really was, the man who had heartlessly abandoned him and his mother years ago to pursue a future of personal education and ambition. What kind of life was he living now? Was he living well in wealth, or during long, quiet nights, did he ever have to experience the pangs of a guilty conscience for the only son he had once rejected in the past? Those questions kept piercing deep into Hai and Appo's mind, opening up a journey of discovery full of mystery and promising many storms ahead. The dawn of a new day had just broken through the layers of clouds, casting faint, pale streaks of light onto the city's major thoroughfares. After a long, restless night filled with a chaotic mess of thoughts and fragmented sleep, Hai decided to step out of the house with a clear objective in mind. His resolute footsteps led him straight toward a private detective agency renowned in the Central District for its prestige and absolute discretion. The interior of the office featured a minimalist yet highly professional decor, inspiring trust from the very first glance. The man who personally received him was Detective Nam, a middle-aged man with a weathered appearance and, most notably, a piercing, calm gaze that seemed capable of seeing through a person and Appo's soul after just a few seconds of observation. Hai quietly sat on the opposite chair, took a deep breath to compose himself, and slowly placed the old photograph he had secretly snapped from his mother's phone onto the wooden table. He gently pushed the photo toward the detective while lowering his voice, producing a deep, warm tone that carried utter determination. He expressed his wish to hire the agency to investigate and uncover the identity and whereabouts of the man in the white shirt. His sole purpose at this moment was to know exactly where in the world the man was living, how his personal life was unfolding, and whether it was truly as fulfilling as what he had once traded away to achieve. At the same time, Hai did not forget to emphasize a paramount condition. The entire search process must be kept in absolute secrecy, completely shielded from his beloved mother to prevent her from discovering or harboring even a shred of suspicion about these quiet actions.
Detective Nam listened in silence.
Then, with a practiced, professional motion, he lifted the old photograph to eye level to examine it. The exact moment, he clearly saw the features in the picture. The middle-aged detective's eyebrows raised slightly, revealing a look of sheer astonishment, a rarity for someone as seasoned and experienced as he was. Nam's eyes darted back and forth, one moment scrutinizing the details of the past in the photo, the next looking up to stare intently at the contours and lines of Hai's face as he sat across from him. The space inside the room suddenly fell into a suffocating stillness. Time seemed to freeze, and the ticking of the wall clock became painfully loud. That prolonged silence inadvertently created an invisible psychological weight on Hai and Appo's shoulders, causing doubts to rise within him. After a period of careful deliberation, Detective Nam slowly lowered the photograph back onto the table, letting out a heavy, emotional sigh before speaking to break the dense atmosphere. He looked straight at Hai and uttered words tinged with bitterness about the arrangements of fate, stating that there truly exist coincidences in this world so bizarre that people can only use the word and quote, destiny and quote, to explain them. The detective calmly delivered a shocking truth, advising Hai not to waste his time or money starting the search, because the man in the photograph, named Trung, was the very client who had spent an immense amount of effort and money hiring his agency to desperately search for the whereabouts of Hai and his mother for the past 6 months. Detective Nam's words struck like a bolt of lightning from a clear sky, leaving Hai completely paralyzed where he sat, his entire body frozen by the sudden influx of information. His ears rang instantly. All surrounding sounds seemed to be sucked into a void, leaving an ultimate emptiness in his mind. His brain repeatedly replayed a massive, bewildered question. As it turned out, all this time, the father he thought had permanently severed all ties was also quietly searching for the existence of him and his mother in this world. This exposed, undeniable truth immediately dealt a heavy blow to the cold, rigid fortress of ice that Hai had built to shield his heart over so many years, causing it to shake violently. A chaotic mix of surprise, numbness, and a tinge of heartache crept into every hidden corner of his soul, shattering his long-held prejudice that the man had completely forgotten and discarded their existence to chase his own wealth and status. Not long after Hai left the office with a conflicted mind, Detective Nam immediately picked up the phone, swiftly dialing the number to report the situation to Mr. Trung as duty dictated. On the other end of the line, upon receiving authentic news about the only son he had lost after so many painful years of separation, Mr. Trung could not contain the powerful surge of emotion rising in his chest. Tears of deep remorse and overwhelming happiness rolled down a face heavily lined by time. That very day, unable to wait another second, driven by profound repentance and a burning desire to make amends for his past mistakes, Mr. Trung immediately inquired about the address and made his way to the small house where Hai and his mother were living peacefully. A knock on the door broke the silence of the house. When the front door slowly swung open, Hai's mother stood rooted to the spot, her entire body trembling, unable to utter a word as she looked upon the face of the man who had once coldly turned his back and walked away, abandoning her in the midst of a storm. Mr. Trung stood there in the present, his hair streaked with silver from the weathering of time, his eyes showing an earnest, longing gaze, and his hands shaking as he prepared to step over the threshold into their home. His voice choked up, carrying the entire weight of a lifetime in Dapo's pain and regret as he called her name, offering his most sincere apology to the woman he had once wronged, begging for a tiny chance to compensate for the pain and loss the mother and son had been forced to endure all this time. Rejection and unresolved storms. However, his sudden appearance after decades of absence brought no warmth or comfort to this home. Instead, it acted like a sharp, cruel blade, reopening an emotional wound that had long since scabbed over but remained tender beneath the surface. Just as the atmosphere reached a point of extreme tension, Hai stepped out slowly from the inner room. With his tall and sturdy frame, he proactively stood directly in front of his mother, like a solid fortress wall to protect her from external forces. Hai's gaze had now completely transformed. There was no longer a hint of the hesitation or ambiguity he felt at the detective agency that morning. Instead, it was replaced by a coldness and a rigid determination that was downright chilling. He stared directly at the middle-aged man claiming to be his biological father, the corner of his mouth curving into a faint, bitter, and sarcastic smile. Hai sharply questioned the two words, end quote, make amends, end quote, that the man had just uttered. He threw back the dark memories of the time when his poor mother had to carry her pregnancy amidst public humiliation, battling surrounding poverty and a loneliness that pierced to the very bone. Where was a father like him then? He had been too busy worrying about his own brilliant university future, too busy following the selfish arrangements and directions of his family, willing to discard his own flesh and blood. Now, when he and his mother had overcome every storm to achieve a stable, good life, the man and Dapo's appearance became entirely redundant and meaningless. Hai decisively ordered him to leave, firmly asserting that no one in this house was his family or shared any relation with him. End quote. There is no one here who belongs to you, end quote. Leaving Mr. Trung standing paralyzed in the middle of the small yard, choking on the belated tears of regret, Hai firmly slammed the wooden door shut, cutting off all connection and coldly, swiftly rejecting the plea. He turned around, gently opening his arms to embrace his mother's shoulders, which were shaking violently from the massive shock, trying to provide her with warmth and the sturdiest emotional support. Yet, right behind that tightly closed door that separated them from the outside world, did Hai's inner self truly find the peace and serenity he displayed on the outside? Would the man named Trung easily accept giving up, or would he continue to persist, seeking every possible way to approach and explain to his son the hidden miseries and circumstances of the past? And this fated, pivotal encounter, what further storms and complex consequences would it continue to unleash upon the current and future lives of both Hai and Tiểu San? All the big questions remained open, signaling a path ahead fraught with hardship and trials for the trust and affection of the characters in the chapters to come.